All right, hello everybody. I am going to um, share my screen here. It's always nerve-wracking to do this. Let's see. Oh, I always got to move that little share screen thing. All right. So I'm going to be talking about working with parents and other volunteer partners within the school. I've worked with um, several groups, either at the college library level, public, and now with school, I'm starting to tap into some of the volunteers we have available here. Um, so the first thing is, where do you even get your volunteers? I actually had um, a good turnout when it comes to recruiting from other school clubs. Um, Sometimes either the parents or students themselves or the club sponsors will lend a hand. I know with the Scholastic Book Fair, if I utilize some club members or the sponsor and they worked so long, I would share a percentage of my proceeds with their group. Um, Hopefully starting next year. I wasn't able to do it this year, but I plan on having um, like volunteer flyers and information set out at open houses or the beginning of the year. That is a great way to tap into new families coming into your district, or maybe there's existing families where the parents want to get a little more involved this year. That's just a great way to, kind of get your library out there and let people know that you're wanting help from them. Um, if you have a good relationship with the local newspaper, you can also shoot them an email and ask to place like a little notice in the briefs section on the front page, just a little blurb saying that, hey, you're looking for either volunteers for a specific event or, even just day-to-day help with like shelving or a project you might be working on. And then the other one is make sure you're promoting or recruiting volunteers through your school or library website. Um, that would be something that if you can't, go in and edit it yourself, definitely start working with your building's admin or even the IT department to kind of get that up and going. Um, and then organization and prep is huge with keeping volunteers, because people want to volunteer where things are just not chaos, essentially. Um, so you always want to have like a little job description posted with each, position you're looking to fill or having somebody help out with. And also having sort of like a meet and greet before the event, um, or before they start helping you regularly is good because you get to know them a little bit better and what they might be best at helping you with. And so the big thing is that volunteers are they're a supplement. They do not replace you. Um, and that's a good thing just to kind of have in the back of your mind. Because I know, especially as school librarians, if you don't have an aide in your library with you, you're constantly juggling all this stuff that you should be doing on top of the things that keep kind of piling on your desk. Um, so I know with my volunteers, I have a lot of student volunteers. Um, they are great at being my extra hands when I need work with help with shelving, or just keeping the place, tidy. Um, Organizing signups is really helpful. Um, my middle school uses Sign Up Genius, although I'm looking to see if maybe they might be shifting more towards the new feature in Google Calendar. I actually got this from watching a librarian TikTok. Um, so Sign Up Genius is nice. Unfortunately, you do have to pay for it. So if your budget is tight, it's not the greatest. Um, but Google Forms, you can customize a form that they would fill out. You can um, get them to list their experiences, what their strengths are, what they might be interested in doing, or even fill out what times they might be available. Um, And then the Google Calendars has a great new feature. You can set up like appointment time slots and send out the link. So if you need them for an event or you just want to schedule them throughout the week or a month, um, the volunteers can go in and select when they can best work. And so you kind of get a good idea of who is showing up when, and what to kind of expect from from that. Um, Also, I really advocate for a spreadsheet of all of your volunteers. Um, I mean, you could, with a Google form, you can easily transfer that information, but you can even add extra columns there about, any notes of like, oh, hey, they were really great at helping me with this, or you can color code with that. I just find like knowing those little details are great. And it just, oops, sorry, and it also helps just, fitting people into the right spot and keeping you organized as well. Um, so a trained volunteer is a confident and happy volunteer. Um, so having a training or orientation, whether it is to the specific duties they'll be doing, or even just getting used to your space and how you organize things, makes things easier for both you and them. They are able to confidently step into a task and complete it with minimal frustration, but then it's also keeping you from being frustrated if, like, say, example, students with shelving, you don't have to go back through and correct what they have done. So, list out things that they'll be doing that day, even before they show up, so they kind of are mentally prepared. And then, follow up with any training and orientation afterwards. And also post the schedule. It is really nice that, that it just lets everybody know when they should be showing up, or like, oh, hey, like this spot needs some coverage, or, oh, for volunteers, it allows for swapping, just in a lot easier way if they have a way to contact you or contact one another. And so getting your volunteers early is really important. Last year I did a Scholastic Book Fair for the first time myself, and it's been several years since it's been done in this middle school library. And my biggest mistake was that I did not gather my pool of volunteers soon enough. So I do have one coming up here at the end of next month. So this is kind of the timeline that I plan on starting with, and it can vary for whatever your needs are, but kind of having this in your head or even written down on a calendar, just so you kind of know what you need to do when. Definitely, 5 to 6 weeks before, make sure you're really putting it out there, either on social media, on websites, newspapers, parents, communication. I know our school has like a newsletter that goes out once a month. Getting that type of information out there is going to be key of, finding people who are really wanting to support your event or your, just library in general. I would have signups ready about a month early if possible. So get your links out there. You pop them on social media, on the library's website. Also put it out to people who are, have clubs going on currently in your school, or maybe in the community. There's, I know different community volunteer groups. That would be probably a good group to reach out to as well with the link. And 2 weeks before, have your schedule ready, so that way they can make any adjustments if needed. And yeah, one week before, I have any, orientations, any supervision you might need in the space, for if you need to step out for either your meetings or, lunch, essentially. that someone can be there to step in and be your eyeballs essentially. Um, and I definitely am one of those people that love getting email reminders, just even for myself, because it helps me like, oh, yes, I did sign up for something. Um, so make sure you send out reminders, and then also definitely create a sign in and sign out sheet. That helps with people who are tracking any volunteer hours. But it's also just an organizational thing that would be beneficial in different scenarios. And I know that presentation went really fast, but I'm open to any questions because I know I've done this across different institutions. So very willing to answer anything or.
Thank you, Eden. And let me just start by saying Eden gets the award for the most beautiful slides. I think her slides are incredible. So if you want to see them, they are available on the Google Drive. We do have some folks who have questions, so I'm going to start calling on people. Thanks for raising your hands. We'll start with Samantha. Samantha, do you want to unmute yourself and ask your question?
Hi, yeah. So I was wondering if you have student volunteers, and if so, how do you choose them? Do you do like an interview process or anything like that?
So last year, my student volunteers were just kiddos that they didn't want to eat lunch in the lunchroom for various reasons. So that I had a lunchtime group, and those kids just kind of appear every once in a while. And then I would have kiddos who would reach out to me that needed stuff for like their beta club things. Either the sponsor would reach out to me or they would. Oh yes, sorry, Jen. Stop the share. So so this year I'm actually going to implement like an interview process. I'm going to just have a standard Google form on the library's website. I'm going to have kiddos, fill it out. I mean, it's not going to be a grueling process by any means, but I want to make sure, like, at the basics, they understand, how the alphabet works and how like my shelving stuff is organized. I will probably also have a stipulation in there that, disciplinary wise, like I'm not having kids with, who are having any sort of issues in that realm that will kind of disqualify them. But I'm not going to be so hard that, I'm not going to say they can't redeem themselves in that way. But that's kind of how I source my student volunteers, or how I will. And also too, I also run the book club, and a lot of my super bookwormy kids are the ones who want to be in here. So I also entice some of those kids by giving them first dibs on new books that have come through. So that's been another great way of getting kids in here to help out.
That's great. I love that idea. Okay, Jennifer, I saw you had your hand raised, and Nadia, I saw your question too. I'll make sure that after Jennifer's question gets asked, that we'll get it answered. So.
Okay, so for parent volunteers, do you have the parent volunteers coming in during the school day? And if you do, how do you handle the security that goes along with that? Because they have to sign in and sign out at the office. But there's other things a lot of schools do too, where like they have to have you like a certain background check to be where the children are and stuff like that.
So far, I haven't run into that issue with the whole background check thing. They do have to check in at the front office, and thankfully my library at the moment is currently like right across the little entrance area. So they would check in, they would get their badge, and the protocol essentially was that I don't leave them alone with any of the kids. I'm in the room while they're volunteering. And so far, I haven't had any other issues with the background check. It had been something I was kind of worried about because You never know, for various reasons an adult cannot be in the building. Um, and so I haven't run into that yet, but I would definitely try pairing up with your admin team, or even if you have like, I know different schools have like maybe a security department. I would definitely coordinate with them even before you start sending out to the community for volunteers, because they'll be able to best guide you for what your district wants to see.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Great question, Jennifer. So I'm going to go back to Nadia's question, and Eden, you've kind of answered this a little bit already, but I want to I think this is a good question for everybody, because honestly, a lot of us probably are doing different things with volunteers. So she asked, what types of jobs do volunteers do? Yeah.
So for students, when it comes to student volunteers and their jobs, it's kind of based off of kind of the ability that I see as they do things. I start them off with shelving. I have a pop fiction section, which is very, very simple layout. So that's where I kind of get them used to it. And if I see that they are, easily doing that, we throw in some nonfiction. And then I've even had kids help me with some cataloging tasks. So like placing barcodes or stickers on books. Over the summer, I decided within the span of 5 days, I was going to reorganize my whole fiction section into genres. And I ended up with my beta club kiddos, because I know that they could really do a good job with it. They helped me divide all the books up into the various genres. So that was, it's a case-by-case basis for the kids, definitely. For adults, I usually try and speak with them and see what they're comfortable with. So like with the book fairs, are they comfortable with handling the money and doing any of that? Would they prefer to be monitoring the kids, especially around like the little doodad section? And then if there's anything that I think would be like, I don't want to use the word like sensitive information, or something that would not be great for me personally if something were to go wrong. I always like to make sure that I either have a very trusted individual in that spot, or it's me doing it. So that's kind of how I gauge kind of who does what at the moment. And granted, that's subject to change as I start using more people.
Yeah, good answer. And great question. Paulina, I saw your hand raised.
Yes, I have some ideas. So for adult volunteers, we have our adult volunteers go get background tested, drug tested, and fingerprinted. And that kind of lowers, anybody coming in, but that's what we have to do for safety. So often if someone works at the school, like as a lunch monitor, they're a good person to be asking to help, or if they are volunteering, or like a board member who's a parent, they're usually, all those things are already done anyway. So they would, for example, we use AR. They would come in and help test the littles, like the first graders, to read them their AR tests, or just type in the book titles for them, because the typing of it is the hardest for them. We do AR rewards. So they would like set up the quarterly rewards with us and for us. We haven't had a book fair in a while, but when we did, they would be volunteering with that. And then for like the 6th through 8th students, the volunteers, so we were having them shelving, putting on stickers, the stamping of the new books in the front and in the middle. And I had some volunteer girls. They had an extra period because they were in an accelerated program at the high school. I think someone.
Thank you, Paulina. Did you get cut off there?
Someone wasn't muted, so I think they cut me off. And the last thing, the girls had some time, so we would take kindergartners in 3 groups, and I'd have 3 of the same book, and I would read the book with flashlight read, and one of the girls junior high would do it with the other kindergarten group, and then the third one So they would mimic what I did. I would teach them first, and then they do like a, my activity too. Thank you.
That's great. Thank you so much for sharing. I really appreciate it. And some great comments in the chat as well. Folks, I love the ideas of what you do for your, or what you do with your volunteers. Jennifer, you have your hand raised.
Yeah, I had another question. So I am the librarian at both an elementary school and a combined junior senior high school. So they have clubs over at the junior senior high school, and I don't have as much that I'm doing over at their library necessarily as the elementary, because I teach classes for tech too at the elementary. Would you think it would be feasible if there are clubs where they want to have volunteers from the junior senior high, and they have students that are each week signing up to come over for a certain period at the elementary school? I don't know, like I'd have to talk to the teachers about how we would work that out, but they have kids that go do other things during the day too, like with 4-H.
Great idea. I've been pondering how to implement something, and I'm actually working with my test group is a wonderful group of the special education room here at the middle school. And to get clubs and kids more involved, I was going to start a sponsor, like a adopt a shelf.
Might have lost Eden. She was just into a
here.
great. Oh,
Oh,
Eden, you're back. You're back. You just froze for a second.
Oh, sorry. No, but they've been really helpful. So I wonder if you could start like a club adopt a shelf type of thing where, certain days of the week or hours, essentially they would sponsor a section or a shelf, or, it depends on how many you would have. And I was going to be, I like to be a little ridiculous with the kids. I was going to get pictures of their faces and essentially blow them up, and the kiddos or the clubs that sponsor those shelves would have their faces, taped onto the shelf. So they could claim like, oh, it looks so good here because, of this club or this group of kids. And it's something you could, depending on how your school is organized, you could put it out to homerooms, or just clubs, individually if you want to stick with, certain groups.
That is such a cool idea. I love that. I love that. And I think the kids would love that too. Okay, Lisa, you have your hand raised.
What we have is the fourth graders go to kindergarten and they work on a book report together and research nonfiction. And so it's within the same building, but they do go down and they share the library sources that type of way. But it's fourth working with kindergarten. It works really well.
That would be also very cute to watch.
Yeah, I love that. Other questions for Eden? If you have amazing ideas like adopt a shelf or something like that, please put them in the chat. Would love to see that. We do have about 5 minutes, but that's okay. If if there's no more questions, that will give us more time to shift over to our next section. Eden, thank you so much for your presentation today. Really, really wonderful. I learned a lot, and I think a lot of people did here as well.
All right. Well, thank you. It's my first time presenting at something like this, so it was fun.
Oh, we do.
Thank you.
Sorry, we do have one more question from Maria. Maria, you want to unmute yourself?
Thanks so much. It's a little bit of a tangent, but you had mentioned that you had reshelved via genres, and since we had a couple minutes, I'm new into this position, but I think that would be so beneficial at our middle school too. Would you be able to share even just a little bit how you started to tackle that?
Yeah. So I don't know if it was the best way. It was a little unhinged. I essentially ripped down all the fiction books off their shelves, and I picked tables, and I just piled the books on the tables. And yes, the genre stickers, I bought mine from Demco because they have I went for the retro looking ones. So I bought a whole bunch of those, and then I went with the smallest piles first, and actually I can show you what I've done. So I have my graphic novel and my manga section, and I even created signs that hang from the ceiling. which is poster board. And so this is kind of what it has turned into. I just sectioned them off. I started with the smallest genres that I have, and grouped them together like that because I knew my realistic fiction and my fantasy were going to be my largest ones, and I wanted a little bit more wiggle room with those. And so I did that within about 5 days with my newborn child strapped to me. So probably not the best idea to do it the way I did. But the kids really like it. And they're much more comfortable finding what they like this way, or at least that's what I found with this age group.
That is incredible. Thank you so much. And extra kudos to you for doing it with your newborn baby.
Yeah, I don't recommend
We're
it.
very like-minded. It's like, gotta do it.
Yes.
And Maria, I also want to note that Barb Miller is going to be speaking at 1:30 in the organization of information session, the keynote, and she is going to be talking about gentrification as well during that. So I knew that would be a popular topic, and that we could probably spend the whole day talking about gentrification, quite honestly. But that's a great question, and I'm glad that got brought up because I do think there's a lot of hunger for that type of information. So